Welcome back to Let's Get Cooking, and thanks for tuning in. It's your girl Rashida, and today I'm going to show you how to make this cinnamon roll cake. Ooh, delicious, delicious. I'm trying out a new recipe, but first, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Let's get started. This recipe calls for some flour, some sugar, some butter, eggs, cinnamon, baking powder. There's also some brown sugar over there, and some milk. To start off, you want to make sure to preheat your oven to 350 degrees so that it can start warming up while you make the batter. In my larger bowl, I'm using 2 bowls. In the larger bowl, I'm taking 3 cups of flour, mixing in 1 cup of sugar, 4 tablespoons of baking powder, and then I want to take my whisk and just mix that well for about a minute or two. What I do love about this recipe is I was able to use the whisk the whole time, and I didn't have to get out the hand mixer. So those are the dry ingredients: 3 cups of flour, 1 cup of sugar, 4 tablespoons of baking powder, and just whisk that for about 2 to 3 minutes till it's well combined. Okay, time to set the dry ingredients aside and get the other bowl. In this bowl, I'm adding in my wet ingredients. I'm adding in 2 eggs. I like to use extra large eggs if possible. Whisk those up real good. To the eggs, I'm going to add in 1.5 cups of milk. I chose to use whole milk, but if you have 2% or almond milk, feel free to use that also. Bringing my milk to room temperature. When you bake, it's always good to have your ingredients at room temperature. The eggs at room temperature and the milk is at room temperature. I'm adding in 1.5 cups of whole milk. And I'm also going to add in 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Now that I have all my wet ingredients in the bowl, I want to just make sure to whisk those thoroughly till I have almost like a little custard. So we have the eggs, we have the milk, and we have the vanilla going. Mixing those liberally. Then I'm going to add back in the dry ingredients. This is a pretty simple recipe. I'm adding back in those dry ingredients. Now I'm not going to over mix. I'm adding those in plus adding in 1/2 cup of melted butter. I do apologize because I meant to tell you that you need to melt 1/2 stick, not 1/2 stick, a whole stick, which is 1/2 cup of butter at the beginning to let that cool a little bit. So we're adding in the butter at this time. Then I'm going to take my whisk and mix everything together till it's just combined. Mixing it for just about a good minute or so. And there you have a nice smooth batter. To this batter, we're going to add in the brown sugar mixture, and that's what gives us the cinnamon swirl. So I'm going to set this aside, and actually I'm adding in 1 more bowl. So I said 2 bowls at the beginning, but it's actually 3 bowls for this recipe. Now that my batter is complete, it's time to start on the brown sugar cinnamon mixture. Okay, for the brown sugar cinnamon mixture, I'm taking 1.5 sticks of softened butter. That's 12 tablespoons. 1.5 sticks of softened butter. To the butter, I'm just going to mix that with a fork because it's soft, so it's going to be easy to mix everything. I'm going to mix it all with a fork. To the softened butter, once I start to mix that first, smooth that out, I'm going to add in 1 cup of brown sugar. Preferably light brown sugar, but if you have dark brown sugar, that'll work just fine. I am adding in 2 tablespoons of flour, 1 whole tablespoon of cinnamon. Now remember, this is my first time making this recipe. I can tell you, because I know how it's going to end, that this is a very rich, delicious, moist cake. So it takes a few minutes, but you just want to mix that together, the butter, the brown sugar, the cinnamon, and the flour for a few minutes until you get this thick mixture. You want it to look like that. Okay, it's time to pour and mix. I'm using a 9 by 13 dish. I think this is the best dish for this recipe actually. I was gonna think if you can use anything else, but you kind of need a rectangular pan, 9 by 13 preferably. Pouring in the batter, and then I'm just going to smooth that out with my spatula. Then I'm going to add dollops of the brown sugar cinnamon mixture. So I'm just going to spoon those in. It's going to be probably at least 12 little dollops every couple of inches. Making sure you use all of that mixture. You want to have all those flavors because that's what gives that cinnamon roll effect. That's what gives the brown sugar, the cinnamon, the butter. Once these are all placed into the batter, I'm going to take a knife. You just want to take a butter knife, and I'm going to do some swirling. And the swirling probably takes a little bit of time, maybe a good 5 to 7 minutes, but you definitely want to swirl it very well to make sure that brown sugar cinnamon mixture goes throughout the batter. And you want to make sure you're breaking it apart and moving it around so that all your cake has that cinnamon swirl throughout. Actually, this was kind of fun. It's a little therapeutic. So I'm mixing out the cinnamon mixture into the cake batter. One thing about this cake, I'll tell you now, that the first day when you cook it immediately, it's delicious. But the second and third day, the flavors intensify and it gets even better. And it actually gets better with time. All right, now into the oven. I'm going to bake this for about 30-35 minutes. Depending on your oven, start checking it at around 35 minutes. It could be between 35 and 40. Okay, now I have it, while that's in the oven, while it's cooking, I have time to make the glaze, the topping, the icing, the frosting, whatever you want to call it. And for that, I'm using a tablespoon of cream cheese. If you have it on hand, this is not a must. I just wanted to have like a cream cheese flavor in my frosting. So I'm using a tablespoon or two of softened cream cheese, 2 cups of powdered sugar, 2.5 cups with glaze with frostings. It can vary a little bit. 2 to 2.5 cups of powdered sugar, about 3 to 4 tablespoons of milk, and then a tablespoon of melted butter. So that's it for my frosting, my glaze. I'm just going to mix those together until I have like a smooth consistency that drizzles over the cake. Not too thick, not too thin, just right in the middle. So that's what I'm going for. Now I will say this was my first batch, but you will see later in the video I did make another batch of frosting because I thought the cake could use a little bit more. Glazes are so simple. Oh, and I did add vanilla to that also. Checking on my cake. This is how you check your cake. Take a knife, put it in the center. If it comes out dry, you're good to go. So that was probably at the 35-minute mark. My cake was ready. Look how beautiful this cake is. Look at that. You see the brown sugar swirl, cinnamon swirl throughout. It's pretty just like this actually. I think it looks better straight out the oven than it does when I put on the frosting, but hey, the frosting makes it taste better. So now I just drizzle on top that glaze, that frosting, that icing that I made, which only took about 5 minutes. It's very easy. And I did let the cake cool for about 20 minutes before I added on the icing, just so it wouldn't completely melt. So you want to let it cool, I would say 20 to 30 minutes. And this is the second layer of icing that I mixed off camera and also added. So I'm putting the icing on the cake. For many, this is the best part, but the cake itself, you really could eat the cake without the icing. So say you don't want a lot of extra sugar and you just want like a nice cinnamon swirl cake to go with coffee, to go with a glass of milk. The cake itself is outstanding. The icing just takes it up a notch. Here's to making the cinnamon roll delicious cake. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming in the kitchen. Thanks for baking with me. I do hope that you try it and let me know how it turns out. Until the next video, you have a blessed day and a blessed week. See you next time.